record it. Let's record it to the cloud. And then I'll share the recording with you.
Thank you.
Because I don't know how to not make myself the host. Let's see. Okay.
Make Jeff the co-host and then he can do it.
Okay, perfect. I love hearing your voice. Okay, hold on. I actually don't know how to make a co-host. Let me.
It's
Go
okay.
look in the list of participants and check next to his name.
Okay, perfect. Like, Jack, help me out. Make Jason the co-host. Is that
Yes. Yeah.
make a host?
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
Yeah. There we go. Oop, it said you were recording. Did that work?
It's recording.
It is.
Yeah, it's recording.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I'm seeing that little cloud with the dot on it too. That Liz. Yeah, I think it's recording.
It's recording. It's in the top left.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. But most of the time when we do have folks that put up a brand new light, we will just like knock on their door and ask them to come out to the park. We'll give 2 complimentary tickets to an observatory event. We'll say, you know, I know you might not understand what I'm telling you about, but we'd love for you to come out and see what we're doing out here. So let's see if I'm able to. There is a good clip of our facilities. You can see the old landfill site there, and then they still do a lot of trash transfer there. But then there is our observatory site itself. And we are, nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains, so we do have a fair amount of trees that are blocking light pollution at a low-lying level. But our little spot here is at the top of our knob of our mountain. It sits at 2,300, 2,700 square feet, altitude. And we're higher up over everything else except for just a couple of other mountains. But we are Dark Sky Park 22, and we sit here between a 1 and a 2. We're slowly moving towards a 2-3, so we're doing a lot more dark sky education than we used to. And these were our most recent numbers. So these are the ones that we took, about 4 a.m. Over June. And we do that because, as you guys know, being a new dark sky park, for the folks that took your measurements, you don't want the Milky Way. The Milky Way is full of light pollution. It's stunning, but it's so bright. You don't want Jupiter, you don't want Saturn. So we waited until they were down, but winter sky wasn't just up yet in the moment. And, we were lucky enough to capture on a clear night where there was no humidity, no atmospheric haze. And we had some pretty good numbers that night. We take 10 measurements per location with 10 locations inside the park. So and then we do averages, like most parks. But this is just a little of what our observatory was and is now. So there on the left, you see the once upon a time of the observatory when it was just freshly built. And we ran shows like that for about 4 years before we had our fundraising to have our landscaping done. But we were getting a lot of folks coming out to the observatory solely because we were a dark sky park. They didn't know what a dark sky park was. They had never been to one. They'd never seen the Milky Way. We advertise that you can see the Milky Way from the park when it is up. And so it was a big deal for us to have our IDA designation, but we were not prepared for just how many people were going to find us. We exploded sort of before we were ready. But there's a lot of learning that comes there. And you guys will, if you're not already, you'll know that you're probably going to get a lot more visitors now that you have designation versus beforehand. I mean, that might not be the case, but we became a dark sky park before we had an observatory, and we built our observatory because we were a dark sky park, because with all these phone calls for folks calling and saying, we're here at your dark sky park. What is there to do? Look up. And people, our average guest travels about 2.5 hours to come visit us. Be it from, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, or up north, Virginia, all the way up to, New Jersey, New York, all the way up into the higher states. Just a little more, there's a nice big picture of our telescope. It's a 34-inch refracting telescope that is custom built for us. It's the largest reflecting in the southeast. And then you can see our smaller scope. We've got a 14-inch Meade there in the back. We use this giant rolling ladder to do our observations, the little staircase ladders, like a pretty standard observatory. But I guess the thing that's different for us is this roof. Because we have our totally clear dark sky, we roll the entire roof off. There's no point to a traditional observatory where we are, because the light pollution is just so minimal. But there you can see, I'm 5'10", and Jeremy there at the top of the ladder is 6 foot. So it's fairly tall for how small it looks in that building. And then this is a lovely unedited image from a fella named Sam. Oh, he just spoke at Cape. Oh gosh. I know. I have notes. It's okay. I can't remember his name right now, but he took this and sent it to me before he edited it. And it's just a nice glimpse of our dark sky space. And then I added some additionals in here, so y'all get a nice glimpse. Everybody loves a lightsaber photo. So there's a little bit of a teachable moment for us. Even with the cloud there to the right, you can see it's just simply stunning where we are. Now, the other half of doing astronomy and protecting our dark skies out here for us is our pollinators. Because we were a mica mine, because we were a landfill, once upon a time, there was nothing that lived here. And there were no bug species, there were no animal species, there were no flowers. And so something that makes our dark sky park really, I think, maybe stand out, because we're not just doing astronomy, we're also talking about how it affects you, the human, but also how it affects our animals, which I think all dark sky parks should be talking about this, because you have such a biome within your park that you are able to, if you are paying attention to it, you're able to also talk on, because we all are under one sky, regardless of what we are, right? And so out here, we do a lot of specific pollinator conversation. Now, these are not a native bee. This is obviously a European honeybee. But the muralist that we had do our mural on our planetarium, which opened 4 months ago, his whole mission is called The Good of the Hive. And so here you can see that, and that's the inside of our planetarium, the one with the queen. But here we can see a honeycomb and all of the bees going in at nighttime, because the larger conversation still here is what happens in the dark. And so you can see, this is a favorite moment of mine. It's like the Adam and the God moment from Michelangelo, right here with our little rosy maple moth handing it out, or the bee handing it off to the rosy maple moth. But as we move around our planetarium, you don't see butterflies, because a butterfly is a pollinator that happens in the daytime, and we're a dark sky park. So we talk a lot about our nighttime pollinators out here. And with that comes, obviously our Luna moth is there, but there are also some species of plants, such as the Tina James evening primrose here, this yellow flower, that specifically opens under dark skies. So up at our observatory, we have something called a moon garden, and we have all of these pollinator plants that open specifically under dark skies or full moons, or are white flowering but retroreflective. So for example, lamb's ear, it's a very common medicinal plant. It has a shine to it. It's like it's lamb's ear, it's very soft, right? Most of us know it probably in our gardens as maybe an invasive weed. Actually, I have no idea what the ecosystem is like in Nebraska. So I have no idea if you guys have lamb's ear, but I assume that you do, because it grows all over North America. It was in Vermont when I lived in Vermont, so it tolerates the cold. But we have a lot of plant species that reflect moonlight, and so we do underneath we used to only operate under dark skies. Now we operate under moonlit nights as well, because we have all of these plants and pollinators that thrive in the moonlight, and we're able to see them with without a flashlight. But we do a lot of dark sky education. The evening primrose flower cannot flower if it is exposed 100% to artificial light. So with that comes the evening primrose moth, that pink moth there. And she's working her way towards the endangered species list. She's not there yet, but it's something that we're able to talk on, that goes in hand with what we're already doing, which is protecting our night sky. Additionally, it's kind of hard to see it in my image here. It might show up better on your PowerPoint, I'm not sure, or on your screen, but over in this area and in this area, I don't know if y'all are seeing my mouse, but
Yep.
okay, good. But there are both yellow and blue sort of orbs all coming off of that moth. And what these are fireflies. So there's a little closer image there of our rosy maple, a clear wing. We are getting way farther away than the fireflies. Here we go. So we have several species of firefly in North America. If you did not know, there's over 2,400 species of firefly in the Northern Hemisphere. But specifically where we live in Appalachia, in West North Carolina, we have this firefly called the blue ghost firefly, and it's an incredibly endangered species. You can see there in the forest that they're not floating at head height where that common firefly floats. They float really low to the ground. And they're quite literally blue. That image of the firefly there in the darkness, it floats blue. Only the male floats. The female does not have wings. And they're rapidly losing their environment because of artificial light and because of light pollution. Fireflies in general are moving towards the endangered species list because of light pollution and deforestation, loss of habitat. But specifically, these guys, they only live in 14 counties in the world, and they happen to be in West North Carolina, East Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Georgia, and in the Appalachians. And so out here, we do a lot about, you know, it's not just about astronomy for our dark skies. We have to protect these species that specifically live here. And we really tap into that on a multitude of levels, because while we all love looking up, most of us, I would say 90% of humanity, or humanity from the United States, has a good childhood memory of chasing a firefly and catching it in a jar. You know, we're all like in awe of this thing. And if we lose that, you know, future generations obviously won't have that, but we can't recreate this. So there's a little example of our two different types of firefly. The blue ghost is there at the top. It's the size of a grain of rice. And there's our common firefly. So these are both males. And they both have 2 satellite lamps on them. But our blue ghost is so small, and they live in tiny populations, and they don't travel the way a common firefly does. So we got to protect them. This image is just I think ambient image of our dark sky overhead. I'm actually pointed to the most light polluted section of our park. So you can see some sky glow down here at the bottom. But this is sort of my like keynote image to tell me to stop talking about fireflies and tell you about what we're doing to mitigate it in our community. So we operate under Maitland Community College. There are 3 satellite, there's a main campus and 2 satellite campuses within, it's Mayland, M-A-Y, Mitchell County, Avery County, and Yancey County. So we have our main campus is in Mitchell County, which is Spruce Pine, North Carolina. This is at Yancey County in Burnsville, where I live. And then we have one out in Avery. We do, there on the left, you see, you know, a standard sky quality meter. This thing is my best friend. I travel with this thing literally everywhere. We were just in Virginia, and I made my husband pull over to the side on the interstate. So I was like, I just want to know what their lights look like out here. I've become that girl. So, and I walked around my sister-in-law's house at Thanksgiving and measured her lights and was like barking at her because she lives in the historical district. And I was like, if you really want your house to be in the historical district, you need to get rid of all of this artificial light and go by candlelight. And she's over it. But here we are at the Yancey campus. And I noticed if we're going to have a dark sky park that is operated by the community college, we need to be a leading example in our community. We do not need to say, only at the Earth to Sky Park do we fall under these guidelines, and everybody else needs to follow these guidelines, but we just have these lamps up at the college. So I went around, and our average was 513, and I was shook. I took my measurements. This is from maybe 2 months ago. The first time I did this, it was worse. I think we were a 4 something. And I took my measurements to the president of the college, and I said, listen, if we're trying to make waves in our community, we want our community to respect us. We can't say, hey, you, the business owner, needs to put a cap over your lamp to help us out at the Earth to Sky Park when we literally have lamps pointed at the sky. As like it's hypocritical and it's wrong. So we started this effort. Whoops, I have those 2 backwards. Let's go this way. Started this effort with our School of Engineering. So we have some pretty incredible resources because we're a community college. And I don't know necessarily how y'all's park is connected inside of its community. But because we have this School of Engineering, they have all kinds of metalworks and 3D printing capabilities. They have engineers that are all working together to solve community-based problems. And that's a specific part of their program that is funded by a grant that comes in through our community and then given to the community college. So I came to the Dean of Engineering with this issue. Most of our lamps, you can see while they're not pointed up, this original lamp right here has no shroud on it. You can see it again better there. It even has an angle off of it that sort of bounces that light straight up. And that's a big issue, especially when we're trying to tell other people they need to put a hat on their lamp. So we came up with this challenge for the engineering students. This is the first beta testing. This is the one that the class voted for. We needed something that one did not, according to the International Dark Sky Association, you either need to change out your lamp for something that works, or you need to figure out a way to get creative about it so you don't void your warranties, because they don't want anyone, you know, voiding the warranties and said, oh, well, the International Dark Sky Association. No, that's not the point. The point is to find a either creative solution like this or change out your lamp is the safest thing. Well, we don't have endless funds, so we got creative. This, you can see, taps onto the lamps here in the corner, but it doesn't actually touch the lighting unit itself. So it doesn't void the warranties. We're still going through with our campus safety expert and our campus purchasing department to make sure that we've not done anything wrong. But if this is successful, there is a fabrication company in our town that is willing to work off of this design to retrofit all of the buildings on our main campus and on this Yancey campus. Now, I've not actually made it all the way out to Avery County because it is a hike and a half away for me, but it's on my list. I just have a lot more lights in my bigger cities than out there. But I say that to say we've really struck a nerve within our college. We decided at the park this was very important to be a leading example. And now all of the engineering students are working on, you know, shrouds like this, but also their own designs that they can take and work on a random building in town and see if it works for that building and that style lamp. So we have, with my sky quality meter, we have measured over 200 businesses, and this is nobody asked for this. Just sort of went around town late at night and started measuring all the lamps. We're like taking pictures of all the lamps, and you know, who is naturally a friend of the dark sky. And we've created this Friends of the Earth to Sky Park program. And inside that program is Friends of the Dark Sky. And, you know, if you fall within the right guidelines, or you have really great dark sky friendly lighting, we give you a window cling and 2 tickets to the observatory. And it's just something that's enough for a business owner to be like, I'm gonna just turn off my horrible lights because I really want to go to the observatory. And for some business owners, that's not enough. They still do not care. But we have noticed of those 200 businesses, before we even kicked off majorly with advertising for this program, we live in a small town. So the talk about it exploded at the business chamber meeting. And people just started doing it. And then they sort of like waited around, and anytime, because I mean, we live in a very small town. Everybody knows who I am. So when I go in, they're like, did you see my lamps? I did see your lamps. Do you want me to pull out my spreadsheet? I can tell you where you're at. They're like, I changed my lamps. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a note of it. I'm going to come back and measure you. And so it's just a little extra incentive for folks to want to try to help us out. Now, there are businesses that are like, do not care what you're doing is hogwash. And that's fine. Those folks are the ones that you come with a plate of cookies and you go with a smile, even though you know they're not about it. And you say, I just want to explain to you. They still don't understand. That's fine. I want you to come be my guest. I'm going to take time out of my day. I don't run observatory anymore. Amanda is my head observatory manager. And I have a team of astronomers that run it with her. But I will take time out of my day to come up to the event with you as my personal guest. And we're just going to talk about the light pollution. I can clearly point to a prison out there and talk on the prison, and you can see the sky glow. The prison's not turning off their lights at nighttime. That's not a fight that we're going to fight. But we look this direction, and at sunset, we can see the quartz corp, which is a quartz mining facility. This fella has a massive section of the mountain over there that used to glow like a disco ball. And he came up and we talked to him about our dark skies and why it's so important. And we came outside and we're showing him all the different little light pollution pops that we do have, what sky glow looks like, and talking about, putting a hat on your lighting fixtures. And he pointed to this thing and said, what is that? We said, well, sir, that's quartz corp. That's your mine. The next day it was off, and we didn't have to ask him to turn it off. We didn't have to beg him to turn it off. He was just up there with his family, and he was so shook at how much light it produced. And he wrote an email, was like, is it better? It's like, oh, bud, yes, come here and see it. So he came back. He's come back several times since. And it's just making small little impacts like that all around our community. And it takes a lot of time. We got our designation back. We started our application in 2013. We got our designation in 2014. We're about to be going on, 10 years since we started this project. And there has been a lot of support. There has also been a lot of hate. And you have to just meet those folks who are going to be hateful with a smile and understanding that maybe we're just having a bad day and you don't actually hate the stars. And you just talk with them. And yeah, that's how we've been involved with our community for sure. But if I sideline, right over here, you can see that beta lamp. Beforehand, it was bright as day. But there you can see it's darker up top. And I stupidly took this with a flash. But you get to a certain hour at nighttime where you're like, I don't even know what my name is. And our lighting sky quality meter actually says a 19.5. We jumped from a 5 to a 19.5. And that's one lamp on our building. And I stood right next to it. You can see it there in the distance. And it's just amazing what a little bit of help does. It goes such a long way. If we can get our campus building back within a sizable amount of light pollution that is minimal, we can make major ripples across our community. And I expect for us to get there. I mean, we've already got the grocery store turns their lights off at midnight just because we asked pretty please and took the manager up to the observatory. Same with, we got a chain fried chicken place called Bojangles. And they now turn their lights off at midnight. McDonald's turns their lights off at midnight. Hardee's turns their lights off at 10:30. So, and those are major corporations in town. We have a brand new Taco Bell that is going to open up in a month, and nobody knows how that's going to go. But you go with a smile. and, you know, pictures of the dark sky at the very least, and say, I just want to show you what the natural world looks like. You might not have ever seen it. And hopefully that person meets you with kindness. Because I mean, the thing I say over and over again is we're all under the same sky. You know, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like, what your background is, or who you love. Like, we all exist and deserve our natural heritage, which is just over our head. So anyways, I can continue talking about this for a very long time, but I'm going to just wrap it on up. Do you guys have any questions for me? Yes,
Go ahead. Can you hear me?
I can.
I was wondering, getting back to the, did you say that there weren't any, when it was a landfill, there wasn't any kind of nightlife? No
So when it was a landfill, there was a landfill safety lamp at the front gate. And then we out here, the park actually developed itself from being a methane burning station. So there was a huge methane flare all the time. The only reason the Earth to Sky Park has its buildings is because the methane was set to be captured and then turned into energy. And they created buildings called the Energy Exchange, which then recycled that methane capture. But yeah, that was the major light pollution at the time was both the flare and the guard's house big lamp.
The other question I had was, the people that are opposed to this, what is the problem that they have with it? Is it?
So honestly, it's quite silly to me. But we live in, I mean, very rural Bible Belt Appalachia. So there is a 100-foot tall, 50-foot wide cross that is brightly lit. And it sits on a mountain that is 2,000 feet higher in elevation than our mountain at the observatory. And when they lit the cross, it was supposed to just be for Christmas. There was a big fight in the community, specifically on Facebook, that said that not from the park, there was some community members that were like, that doesn't represent me. Whoops, that doesn't represent me. That, or I can even just stop this. That doesn't represent me. That doesn't, I don't agree with it. Tax dollars shouldn't be spent on that. Or the small bit of people that were on there were like, I can't see the stars from my house anymore. Well, that spun into a big light pollution conversation. And
You got
they
drug in the middle of the thing.
Oh, yes. And in a big way, because we have a tiny town. I mean, our population in the winter time is a little over 800, between 800 and 900. And so they looked to the college and they said, what is your issue with this? And the college was like, we don't have issue with anybody or anything. Most of our donors were calling angry at us and we're like, we didn't start this. So I don't know what you want us to say. We can see it from the observatory. It causes a fair amount of light pollution, but we are not saying turn it off. Do your thing. You have the right to support your own religion, but we don't want any part of this. It's not a religious argument. And there was a group of people on the religious side of it that created a group called Shine On. And it was a anti-dark sky, anti-darkness, anti all things dark and evil mission. They made t-shirts, they made stickers, they made mugs, they made money from it, they made mad money from it. Meanwhile, my little I support dark skies sticker, which I'm like looking around, I don't even see one. I support dark sky sticker started becoming a sign of hate in our community. And my husband, for example, was at the grocery store. He's a very proud husband. He's got his little I support dark sky sticker on the back of his car. And some man approached him and was like, you need to tear that thing off, you sinner. And Jason's just like, what? Like, my wife is an astronomer. She looks at stars. Like, what? So there's a bit of delicacy there that we still approach with the people who come off as, I know from their perspective and from my perspective, it feels a lot like hate. It maybe is more not understanding than hate, but the aggression behind it, because it comes from your dark skies are attacking my religion. And that's not in any way what it is. But there's a big rift in our community because of it. And so we handle it with kid gloves. As you know, we have an astronomer who is really involved in his church. And so we let him talk openly with church groups that come up there, missionary groups that come up to the observatory. Like, you want to talk about the stars that Jesus saw? Let's talk about the stars that are in the Bible. And he, boops around the sky and tells them every star that is mentioned in the Bible, and it's beautiful. But there are still folks that are very anti wanting to turn their lights off or down because of that darkness factor. Which, hopefully over time, we can, explain to them that this man-made artificial lamp is ruining the thing that God made for them. But it's just humanity, right? We all get upset about things that we don't understand.
Yeah. Anybody have any other questions?
How close is Stokes County to Mitchell County?
Silvers County?
How close is Stokes County
Stokes.
to Mitchell County?
Stokes to Mitchell.
Hold on, let's just do a quick look-see, huh? Stokes County. County, North Carolina. Oh, that's Danbury. To Mitchell County. It is 3 hours and 15 minutes away.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like closer to the eastern side of the state. If you throw a rock from the park, you can basically hit Tennessee. They didn't deserve
But get in
that.
trouble for that.
But, I know, we'll get in trouble for anything.
So with the fact that you're a community college, they fund the observatory and the planetarium then, is that correct?
So surprisingly, no. We operate as a nonprofit here at Mainland Urcha Sky Park. And so with that, the only things that the college has purchased with college funds are 6 eyepieces for the telescope and the actual projector in the planetarium. Everything else is 100% privately funded through private foundations, grants, and benefactors. So we have the Blair Dark Sky Observatory was funded by the Blair family that lives in Burnsville. People are like, oh, Blair Dark Skies. because it's naked. And it's like, no, it's the Bear family gave us a lot of money. And then the Glenn and Carol Arthur Planetarium was funded by a fella, Glenn and Carol Arthur, who I believe they had a chain of Arby's, and they retired in Boone, North Carolina, which is about an hour away from here. And they wanted to give to the college, and we had already been working on this project, and they were like, that's a cool thing, donate to that. But we do, you know, all of our events are self-supporting. All of our events is what pays for the staff. So we don't do anything out here without, like, can we definitely fund this via the event that we're about to throw? The only thing that outside of the park that is funded by the college is the college classes. So like going to the School of Engineering and taking up class time to work on this engineering project would technically be funded by the college, but because he's able to turn it into an assignment and the actual materials are purchased with funds that we've made from the observatory. And then the students donate their time after class to like come out and make sure that it works at nighttime and things like that. So yeah, we're a partially, I guess, funded with the college, but 90% of our funds comes from community support.
Is that why you have tickets for the observatory to raise money, or is it to limit the number of people coming? Because you said there's quite an influx there for a while.
Yes, I mean, we have a wait list averagely for our observatory of about 40 to 70 people on a single wait list, depending on the time of year. We averagely have at least 40, even in the winter. But our parking lot is so small, it only holds 14 cars. And with fire codes, we only can sit 26 people in the observatory.
Okay.
So we have done, actually had my family, my husband's family in the observatory of 37 people. And I was like, it's my family reunion. I'm the manager. I can get away with it. It was so uncomfortably cramped in there that I was grateful. So many of them were nieces and nephews and like underage that we could just like squish them in the corner. Because it was too many bodies in the space for sure.
How late does the observatory stay open at night?
So we do events, we do a 2-hour event, from sunset to, you know, after astronomical twilight, to it's a 2-hour set. So whenever that ends, in the summertime, we'll go until 2 a.m. at the latest. Amanda and I are often the ones that will go for what we call double headers. And we usually will have a private event after a public event. So our public event is $20 a ticket. If you're an adult, it's $5 a ticket if you're a kid. And we get a lot of requests, which is where we make a major part of our funding is private events. It's we just raised our rate, used to be $300 for 2 hours, and the limit was still 26. But now it's $400 for 2 hours. And that's because we're working on, we need a little extra funding for a couple different pieces of equipment that we're working towards. And inflation went up, and we were one of those that had to raise our rate. Unfortunately, there was a big heartache there because our community knows, you know, for the last 7 years we've been functional, we've been $300. And but now we're $400, and we still are getting a fair amount of private event requests, you know, wedding proposals. We've had a couple weddings in the observatory late at night. We've got I don't know, so many, I've been part of at least 5 proposals. One, so 6 right there. People love it, and they're like, it's so dark, I can't see what you're doing. We're like, flip on the reds, everyone's like, oh. But yeah, so we do tickets because we have such a small space that and the other side of it, the road that we use up to the observatory, because the planetarium's down here and the observatory's up here. The road we use is a 1-car road. So you either are, we're all going up the road and we're parking, or we are all going down the road. But if you meet somebody in the middle of this old logging, mining, landfill road, you're either both backing all the way up or you're both going all the way down. But there's no pull-offs. And the beautiful, horrible part about where we are is we're up on this knoll, this little knob of the mountain. The parking lot that fits 12, 14, if you park creatively, falls off on both sides. So we have railroad ties all the way around. You are not backing up off the mountain. You are here for the event. And we're very, strict on how we park people. You got to pull in to the left and pull your body around and park with your taillights to the forest and your headlights going down the mountain. Because when it's so dark up here and you're in that forest canopy where our parking lot sits inside the forest canopy, you will drive off of the mountain if you're not paying attention. So you have to do it our way. Did you guys have any other questions?
Hey, Blair, I was going to point out, when you look at the pictures of the observatory, look inside where there are the lounge chairs. It's so comforting to sit around and wait to view the telescopes, because you've got this nice, if Hyde were to expand the deck there, they could have room for stuff like that. It was one of the most unique things that I saw when we were there.
Let me go back to it real quick. Yeah, so we have these 0 gravity chairs, and they're just a standard 0 gravity chair you can purchase at there's 2 of them there. But you can purchase them at like a garden store. Really, there you go. We've got more of them in the space now. We've got them on both sides. We've taken down a table. But we, the whole roof rolls off. Why not have the ability to kick it all the way back? We all want to be 7. We all want to lay on the ground in the grass and like watch the stars. Not all of us have bodies that are capable of doing that. So, I'm 30. I can't get on the ground and do that anymore. We all got body aches. And so the 0 gravity chairs are a really amazing feature, because you straight up can kick all the way back, legs up, be in a totally comfortable state and watch the stars. They each have a little pillow that sits behind. You can see one of them there that sits behind your head. So you're not in an uncomfortable position. And much like you guys, I assume, but even if it's not a meteor shower night, there's probably a meteor or 5 that are going to go overhead during an event. So we're always telling folks, kick back, look up, you might see something crazy. And we see fireballs all the time. So it's really cool. Our observatory is pretty unique on its own.
What brand of telescope is that, or who made it for you?
Yeah, so this is made from, let me pull up his name real quick. This is it's a custom Newtonian with a star structure brain to it. But let me pull up his name. The fellow that made it is in Florida, and let's see here. It's by Loptics, 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 Lockwood Custom Optics.
Yes.
You guys know him?
Oh, yes. Familiar with him.
So looking at some of his other telescopes, like this is par for what he does. Like it's his work is really, really beautiful. And we just absolutely love Sam. We call him Sam because he was donated to us. The money for him was donated to us by the Samuel L. Phillips Foundation. And yeah, he's just an amazing little 3.6 visual Newtonian. And we just love him. He's just when he breaks, we get sad. Like any astronomer gets sad when their telescope breaks, so. Y'all have any other questions?
All right, well, thank you very much, Blair. That was great to see your guys' setup.
I'll put in the chat here, both our IDA information.
Okay.
And where you can find information from Lockwood, about our telescope. You can tell that people don't ask me very often where he's from. They just are more curious on why we call him Sam.
Yeah, no, that's great to find out more. I mean, because maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I don't think when we think of dark skies, we think of the stars, but to think of the stuff that's on the earth that matters with the dark skies, that was pretty fascinating to hear about that as well.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about, I mean, we're astronomers. We all get lost in looking up. And I think there's a big part of us that every so often, it's a good reminder to just be like, hey, look down, look at what's under your feet.
Your firefly and flower fertilization portion of the talk was fascinating. I hadn't realized that it was could be as complex as all that.
Yeah, we didn't realize it either until we started digging, and then the world really opened up to us, and there were a ton of environmentalists that were like, did you know? We're like, no, we didn't, please tell me. So we're learning, just like, folks are learning about us, and we're learning every day. So it's all part of it.
All right.
Anyways, thank you all so much for having me, and Amanda. And congratulations on your new designation. I've been telling people in my dome all about you guys, so congratulations.
Thanks. That's going to do it for the meeting, everyone. Thank you. And hope to see a lot of you at our Christmas party. Take care. Thanks.
I didn't, when I was looking at the club newsletter, didn't quite follow that reservation process. So I didn't.
Oh, we don't have it set up yet.
Oh,
No, we don't have it quite ready yet.
all right. So I didn't miss any.
That was fun. Thanks.